DeepMind 12 has the ability to program in a 32-step sequence, complete with rests and ties. And so today we're going to make a Polynomial C patch and program part of that sequence into DeepMind. The sequence, Polynomial C sequence, is a little bit long to put in there, but this will show you how to take any melodic step sequence and enter it in to the DeepMind. So here we go. This beautiful and seemingly complicated sequence that you hear is made up of, at its core, the first 16 steps of the Polynomial C sequence. But the arpeggiator is providing an octave jump and also various transpositions based on a chord that I played in. So let me take away the octave jump and also the transposition. And at its core, it's just the Polynomial C sequence. So let's start from square one and see how we got here. Okay, so the first thing to do is hit Program and Compare, and that gives us the default program. Now we're going to hit Edit and make sure your saw wave is at 8 foot. Hit Edit again, and oscillator 2, we want it an octave lower. Oscillator 2 is the sub oscillator, and it's a square wave. And we're going to turn the pulse wave off and turn the level up on your sub oscillator to about 100. We'll turn the noise to 45. And to give it that old vintage sound, we're going to turn the pitch mod up just a little bit, up to 16. Now let's turn it up to about 12. And it gives it that feeling that it can't quite stay in tune, but it's really close to being in tune. Okay, we want to hit Edit on Poly and put it on Mono. Turn the frequency all the way down because we're going to use the envelope to open it up. Resonance at about 70. And hit Edit under the resonance there and turn the velocity sensitivity off. Turn the envelope to 135. Turn the LFO to 162. And what that's going to do is use the LFO to vary the frequency slightly like it does in the original. So you want to go back down here to LFO2, hit Edit, and make sure that the shape is triangle and that the rate is about 73. And LFO1, that was varying your pitch. We want to make sure that that rate is about 60. You want keyboard tracking at 0, VCA all the way up, and then hit Edit and make sure that your velocity sensitivity is turned all the way down. High pass, you want it at about 136 and turn the boost on. VCA is going to be 0, 124, 255, 196. Then hit VCF and it's going to be 0, 128, 128, and 128. Now it needs some reverb. We're going to use the insert effect, and we're going to use room reverb at a setting of 35. Okay, now for the fun part, entering the sequence. Now the DeepMind 12 has a little bit unconventional sequencer because it can sequence per step of its 32 steps many different parameters on each step. it becomes, of course, a little bit more complex. And so the first step, we have to tell it what we're going to be sequencing. And in this case, we're going to be sequencing the pitch. So you go and hit the mod button, and you select the control sequencer. Put the depth at 127, and let's tell it we're going to sequence oscillator 1 and 2 pitch. Okay, now down here in the ARP sequence section, you're going to hit edit, and you want your arpeggiator key sync to be on, and you want octave to be at 1. You want your clock divider to be at 1/16. And we'll start with rate of 140 here. Hit edit again. You want your control sequencer to be on. Clock divider to be at 1/16 like the arpeggiator was. The length is 16 steps. And you want it to loop over and over. And now we get to our sequence. When you go down, you see yes flashing. And so you hit yes. And you see the sequencer tracing across there. And it says down here length 16, so we know we got 16 steps in there. Now in terms of notes, we know that the sequence is D sharp, G sharp, C are the notes. So I think of this in terms of C, and in terms, if C is 0, has a value of 0, then the first step is 3. So you see the little elongated cursor selection there. You want to make it a value of 3, and that means D sharp. Move to the next section of the 16 and put an 8 in there using the bank up and down buttons. Then you want another 3, meaning D sharp, another 8, which means G sharp, and 2 12s in a row, which means C. And you'll notice sometimes you rotate the dial here and it won't move, so don't get confused and be on the wrong step. Just watch the cursor and watch for it to move. So we're going to enter the exact same thing again, which is going to be 3, 8, 3, 8, 12, 12, then 3, 8, 12, 12. Okay. And at this point you want to hit write. And I'm going to write that to the C bank because I already know that there's no good patches there. So I'm going to write that to C4. And now I know that that's saved. I'm going to hit on off on the arpeggiator. I'm going to turn the arpeggiator on. And I'm going to hold down on hold for a second. And then it lights up blue. And so you know that that's on. And I'm just going to hit the C here. Okay, so I see that my sequence is in. And of course I haven't put in the tie notes yet. So the one I put in there is 12, which is this C up here, is hitting twice. So I do need to put the ties in. You hit edit in the ARP seek again. And go down here where it says pattern. And it asks you if you want to edit the pattern. You hit yes. And you want to go to one of the user patterns. Just keep hitting yes. And you get to, let's use user 1. Now we knew the length was 16, so you want to hit here global. Go back to 1. Global. And using the bank up and down, we can select 16. Now our pattern length is 16. and then hit program. We want the velocity on all of them to be the same. Now the velocity is where you could possibly do a rest. You just make the velocity 0 on one of the steps and make sure velocity was set up to control your VCA. And that would be your rest. But I'm just going to use this data entry slider here. And I'm going to go one by one. I'm going to make all the velocities 127. Now I know my tie is from step 5 to 6. So I'm going to go to step 5. Oh, I see that my first step is already a tie. So the way you get rid of all the ties is you go to your last step here, hold down FX, and go backwards. In other words, counterclockwise. And that should get rid of all your ties. Go back through and make sure they all say gate 127. Okay, so I know that I want a tie from 5 to 6. So right there, step 5, I'm going to hold down FX and turn it only until it goes to 6. So it put a tie right there. And I know that from 11 to 12 I want a tie. So I go to step 11, hold down FX, and rotate it just to 12. And I know on the last 2 steps I want a tie. And so I go to 15, hold down FX, and place a tie there. And you'll hit one of these 2 buttons here to save it. The one on the left, the no button, we'll save it in there. Okay, just now it glitched out on me just a bit and wasn't quite working right as far as the arpeggiator. So what I did, I went in here where it says pattern and I switched that to user 2 and went back to user 1. Now everything's functioning right. I don't know if it just got out of sync or what happened, but if that happens to you, just go to user 2 and go back to user 1 where you had it saved, and everything will be in sync and everything. You hit on and make sure that the hold is on as well. And now if you hit that C, now as far as using that Polynomial C motif and kind of making it your own, make something of your own out of it, go into the arpeggiator and change the octave to 2 and play maybe a chord like C sharp, D sharp, G sharp, and add 2 C's in the bass. Mess with the clock divider. A little portamento to it here.